Good morning, friends. Good morning, audience, loyal audience. This video will be short and sweet, and I don't mean to make it long, but the points I'm going to make here are very important. In Syria, the Russians have signed and guaranteed and brokered hundreds of agreements with the rebels, right? With the defenders of the uprising. Uh, and when and record, they have a full perfect track record of reneging and canceling and throwing in the trash each and every one of them, if each and every one of those agreements. They used to come to a section like in Damascus, a neighborhood or a section of town or subdivision in Damascus, or Homs or anywhere else, or villages, or stronghold of the rebels who were pretty much were concluded in 2015. You know, the regime was on the brink of collapse when Obama came to the rescue by saying the failure of the regime is a red line and that he wants them to use gas. And Russia began to drop bunker busters on hospitals and civilians and so on. But the subject is here. They would make an agreement and the hostilities would secede, right? Because now the locals, reconciled with the regime and they don't want hostilities to continue and so on, because they were in defense, right? Once that agreement is not needed any longer, the Russians would renege on it and would immediately come back and then raise that neighborhood and kill all its people and defenders. Straightforward. They didn't even notify or warn of their cometh, of their onslaught or attack, and then the airplanes and artillery would start shelling that place into the ground. Why did they do that? Because to the Russians, to the Pustalenins, well, that's starting with Lenin until Pustalenins now. Negotiating an agreement is an instrument to win war. It's not an agreement to be honored by itself, you know. So you can shake hands with them all you want. If they ask for negotiations, that means they're trying to use a tool in their disposal to either get out of trouble or prolong the war or anything else. It's a maneuver. An agreement with the Russians, you are giving them reprieve, you are giving them advantage, and it is for them a maneuver. It is not an agreement. These guys do not honor agreements. Outside of Syria, where they broke each and every agreement, they broker it and they're still doing it now. Outside of that, they did that in Chechnya. In Chechnya, they had an agreement after the first war, and the agreement was for Chechnya to delay the declaration of its independence for 5 years. They reneged on it, right? And the consequences for Chechnya was tragic, right? Grozny, lost some 250,000 of its inhabitants in 1 week, and Syria did the same thing. And let's go to Ukraine. They reneged on every agreement with Ukraine, memorandums, Minsk agreement, wherever agreements and peace treaties and negotiations and cessation of hostilities with Ukraine was reneged on 100%. So between Chechnya and in Afghanistan too, they had done the same thing, negotiations and agreements and so on in Afghanistan. Syria, Afghanistan, Chechnya, and Ukraine, perfect record of Pustalenins, Lenin and Pustalenin. You know, these two sandwich a whole slew of vermin, right? And in the last century, they had a perfect record in Europe, you know. Not just agreements. Now, Stalin used to kill people just for pleasure, right? For sports. He one time killed like 10,000 Polish officers, right? In cold blood, and he accused the Nazis. The Nazis or the Germans officers, you know, did a forensic investigation and found out that they were killed by Russians. Russians said no, and the world, of course, media, said no, these are Germans, right, who killed them. But lately, you know, like it was divulged that yeah, they were killed by Russians, right, by Stalinists and Leninists, and that's that, and so on and so on. One time, I remember in Bulgaria, I think, or Hungary, or East European nation, there was some kind of a resistance movement while the Soviets advanced, right? And then they decided to talk to the leader of the resistance movement, which was an army, something similar to Syria. And once this man, this officer, came to negotiate with the Russians, they basically killed him and disbanded whoever was behind him, and that's it. So you cannot, folks, you cannot negotiate with those people, have an agreement with them, cessation of hostilities, or shake hand or take their word on it, without tragic ends. You're going to suffer. The counterpart of that agreement or that encounter or that negotiation is going to arrive at tragic and grievous end, right? History is witness to those people in here and there, in Poland, in Germany, and everywhere, right? Notwithstanding the direct rule of their rule in Russia and in the stands and here and there. Word has it they sent some 60 million to the gulags, right? For what? Like you just ask yourself, you're looking at those people thinking they have become democratic, after their failure of the Soviet Union. You have it all wrong, folks. I can tell you this, I made this prophecy before the war and I found it deleted from my accounts, right? Even from my laptop. But, some people know it is true. That they will not win this war in Ukraine, nor will they go into Western Europe. But let's make a hypothesis here. Hypothetically speaking, let's imagine that they did. Imagine something that is a figment of our imagination. They made it to Western Europe. The result will be this. Germanics and Scandinavians are poised to be annihilated by those creatures from Moscow. And I mean annihilated, really. There will be mother of all blood purges. There will be gulags again, and the permafrost of the tundra will turn red in color of your blood, and whoever is left will be made will be sent or thrown down to the lowest ranks of society, if anybody of you is left. I am not exaggerating here, folks. You better know what I'm talking about. And some of you know what I'm talking about. So don't expect this supposed new world to be nice or good. Oh, no, folks. This new world is nothing less than an animal farm in the work, right? Those people wants to return those Europeans, those Middle Easterns, those Asians, those whoever it is, they want to return them to the animal farm. And that's that. It is a matter of creed and dogma. This dogma and creed is like the sickly dogma and creed of Lenin through PustaleninS, formulated, woven, conjured up, brewed by some sickly personalities like Karl Marx, like Engels, like Trotsky, and other theoreticians, right? That who were basically have ulterior motives. If you look at their writings, at first blush, you may think it is a good thing for society, but then later you begin to realize there's some sinister movement to it. This is similar, no different from throwing grain to the cattle, right? And that's that, folks. So that's my point. Let me tell you about this war between Ukraine, which is really Europe, and those PustaleninS. This is one way or the other, folks. If Europeans or Ukrainians give reprieve to Russia now by negotiations, by freezing of hostilities, they will have done two things. One, they will jeopardize their chances of completely evicting the Russians from their land. Two, they will have allowed for more bloodshed on their behalf, meaning more of your soldiers will die later, right? Why? Because you gave time for the PustaleninS to regroup and breathe a little bit of life into their own ranks, right? This war, folks, whether it's Ukrainian or Lithuanian or whoever it is, one way or the other, this war is one way or the other, nothing more, nothing less. They take you, you're gone, and you will be lucky to just be gone. But what they will do to you is something horrible, folks. You're gonna live like the life of animals in the animal farm. I'm not exaggerating. This is not overactive imaginations. This is reality, folks. The examples in Syria and Chechnya and now Ukraine, all these agreements, all these negotiations turned out to be a ploy to further expand their own military. For them, getting the enemy to cease hostility or negotiate or give reprieve or peace treaty or something like that, to them it's part of their tactics and strategy of winning that war, right? So ends justify means is something these guys eat and drink and live by. It's that simple. They don't care. These guys have absolutely no shame. They have no honor. They have no integrity, and they consider these traits to be part of the weakness of human being. That's us, right? Let me give you an example about them. When those Genghis Khan and Hulagu came to the Middle East, started invading Asia, they killed, like word has it, or history has it, they murdered like 40 million innocent people, the majority of which were not even Arabs, right? They would enter a city or would enter a village or find a group of people. They would basically genocide them. No questions asked, like they say. Kill first, bury later, no questions asked, or ask questions later. And when they came and swept through the Muslim world, the Muslim world was in a lethargic state, right? No armies, learning, universities, blah, blah, blah. And that's when they got like really vicious because they had no opposition, right? Similar to Russia and Syria and their standoff weapons. But when the Muslims regrouped and defeated them in the spring of Goliath and here and there, like 4 other battles, these guys turned out to be like little dogs, bootlickers, right? Whining dogs. Their leader, Hulagu, I think, sent a letter, an emissary to Rome, begging the Pope to help him defeat those treacherous Muslims. Now here's the deal. This is like Stalin accusing the people who didn't have anything to do with it being like murderous, right? And you witnessed such acts from Putin when the bridge was of Crimea, that Kerch bridge was attacked. He called for emergency session in the Security Council of the United Nations, and he started accusing Ukraine of terrorism. Really? How about the cities you razed to the ground like Mariupol? You guys see what I'm talking about? Even if you European look at Ukraine now, you would see he's following the same thing as he did in Syria. And now he's trying to broker a deal, just like he did in Syria, with the rebels, only to buy time and as a tool to really kill and win. And that's it. I cannot emphasize more now on what's going on, folks. Ukrainians, you sign you sign a treaty or cessation of hostilities with Putin. You will give him time to recover. 2, he will come back. 3, it will be tragic ending for you Ukrainians, because now, after you allowed him to recover, you're gonna lose more soldiers, and you are risking the life of your soldiers. This war is one way or the other, and Europeans need to really wake up to it, to what it really is, and what those freaks from the vermin of the swamp in Moscow and their gods in the Middle East, right? Their brothers in the Middle East as well. I want to recommend again to you folks, watch that movie, The 13th Warrior, and those bears are them, you know. Also, I want to bring to your attention something, you know, like how often did you hear Putin and Dugin and all those, like those minions, right? The Netanyahus talk about the West and the hegemony of imperialism and folks, they're not bringing anything better. If anything is bad about the West, and there are many things that are bad, right? These guys are using this slogan, right? Just like proletariat and same thing, folks. They used those very same slogans when they established communism, Lenin and Stalin. And what happened afterwards? I need not lecture you on that. You know that history firsthand. You Russians, you Ukrainians, you Eastern Europeans, you Western Germans or Eastern Germans. You know that firsthand. Those very same slogans against the West brought upon you a 70 years of horror in Germany too, right? And there was really not much left of Europe. If these guys come now, they're hoisting communist flag on their tanks and and they're crying Nazism and so on. You have no idea what they have in mind, folks. Just look at Syria and see what's going to happen. In fact, they will do far worse to you in Europe than they probably did in Syria. They did that, and Germany was like a Syria before Syria was Syria in the last century and this century, right? But this time around, they want to make sure that you guys are no longer around. I have read literature and heard those Shiites, right, from Iran and Pakistan and here and there, you know, and I have seen evidence here in the United States, like about those people from India and here and there. They teach them that the white race or the Anglo-Saxons, which is you, Germanics and Scandinavians, and your extension here in the United States and Australia and New Zealand, that the world no longer need white race or can continue with white race and so on. I have read before certain people in the technology sector coming from, I don't want to say where, from Asia, South Asia, talking about Americans, white Americans and so on, as they're stealing their technology and they're kicking them off the cliff or something like that. I was like, really? Isn't it the other way around? Have a nice day, my friends. Ukrainians, the Ukrainian leadership. If you signed agreement with PustaleninS, this war is one way or the other. That's it, right? And if you sign any agreement or give reprieve to PustaleninS, you will incur more blood. You will face tragic results, and you will have the blood of your Ukrainians on your stain you as well. I hope. And Slava Ukraini. Have a nice day, my friends.